Before we get started talking about leather, I just want to mention I'm doing a giveaway on this video. If you want information on how to enter, that's going to be at the end of the video. The prize is going to be this leather strop and any bottle of Stroppy Stuff compound. In this video, we're going to cover a relatively small selection of different leathers. We'll talk about bovine, side, back, shoulder and butt, buffalo, calf, and kangaroo leather. So this first point is nice and easy. Should you use grain side or should you use flesh side? For diamond compounds, always use grain side. The next point is kind of a big one, but not really very difficult to answer. It's a combination point. Which animal leather should you use and which cut of that animal should you use? When selecting a leather, the natural abrasive properties in it just don't matter at all. Even the most abrasive leather is nothing compared to using a compound on it. So that's not anything you need to worry about. So you need flatness, stiffness, and smoothness. That smoothness comes from the grain structure, the flatness comes from the cut of leather and how lucky you are, and the stiffness comes from the cut of leather and the animal and the tanning process. I'll just quickly specify the different cuts of a hide first, because that will help you understand what we're talking about here. It may slightly differ between different tanneries and leather suppliers, so just check before you buy something. But a side cut is usually split down the backbone of the animal, so a side cut will involve half a shoulder, half a butt, half a back, half a belly. A shoulder cut will usually involve both shoulders. A back cut will involve both shoulders, the back, and both sides of the butt. And a butt cut, which is the premium cut, will be both sides of the butt. Generally, a side cut or a belly cut will be the cheapest because it's the most undesirable. The belly will often have a lot of scars because of the animal catching itself on barbed wire or where it can scratch itself. You know, it can't scratch itself on its shoulders, so it doesn't create scars on its shoulders. But the belly will have the least growth creases because it's not growing around joints and stuff. The belly is also, though, generally a softer piece of hide, and we don't necessarily want that. So I personally would avoid side cuts unless you can get them cheap and you just cut out the bits that you don't want and hand select nice bits. So this is a nice bit of, this is a side cut, this is a nice bit of side, and in comparison this is shoulder. We'll go more into this later, but you can see the grain on them is different as well. This is a coarser grain and this is a much smoother grain. It's not just a difference in cut as well, because a side cut is usually cheaper, it goes through a different tanning process as well. And that can affect how stiff the leather is. Seeing as we just started talking about the different cuts, I'll show those in more detail here. So this is all bovine leather, which I'm about to show you. This is the side cut. It's, you know, as I said, it's generally the cheaper cut, but this is still so much better than you would see from a large-scale manufacturer that you would buy a strop from online. They just choose the most garbage cuts imaginable. And so even though this is a cheaper cut, you can see how clean and how smooth this is. And you can get this yourself. It's, you know, the leather is not that grossly expensive. You will find quite a lot of wastage because you'll be trimming off the, you know, the premium bits. This is really nice and flat. The grain structure just isn't ultra fine. So this is a piece of shoulder, and you can see it's much smoother. You can see the light reflecting there. It's kind of a little bit glossy. It's a closer grain structure. It feels much smoother. And this is a much more premium cut. And it's going to be difficult to tell the difference here between that and this is butt. So I haven't sectioned this off, so you'll see imperfections in this because I haven't chosen the nicest bits. But this is much more glossy and it's a finer grain structure. I'll do a side-by-side comparison. So there's not a huge amount in it really. Butt is a more premium cut. It is slightly stiffer than shoulder. Shoulder is slightly stiffer than belly. but from my experience, generally has more imperfections in it than shoulder. So you can see bits like this. These are like growth creases, but generally has more growth creases in it. So you will have more wastage if you buy a butt than if you buy a shoulder, but the butt is a more premium leather. Generally, thickness as well. Thickness does not indicate stiffness. You can have thin, soft leather, thin, stiff leather. You can have thick, soft leather, and thick, stiff leather. So you can often choose different thicknesses of the cut as well, but would never be thin because it's the premium cut and it's made with you make heavy duty things with it, so you would never get a thin butt cut. It wouldn't make sense. These are very similar. The butt is a little bit thicker than the shoulder on this one. It's just over 3 mil, I think. Before we move away from bovine, I will just quickly mention sole leather or soling leather. This is ultra thick and ultra stiff. I generally wouldn't use this. It's very expensive and usually comes in pretty bad condition. They don't try and keep it nice because it's going to be used in the sole of a shoe, which is not a seen area. When you compare that to how clean this piece of shoulder is, there's not an imperfection on this thing. And this, these scratches have definitely come from the tannery. They, those weren't in the leather originally, but then obviously you get a lot of these growth creases as well. And in the growth crease, it's a different grain structure. So if you had like a section of this as your strop, the compound would sit differently. You'd have different distribution of compound in there. And realistically, that wouldn't matter, but you'd be abrading at different rates along here. And, you're going to move your knife in a diagonal motion, so it will distribute the wear. But it's, why spend, like this sheet on its own was, I think, £20 for just this. And realistically, I wouldn't be using any of these bits here. So you get maybe 2 strops out of this for 20 quid. It's not worth it, in my opinion. Now we've spoken about bovine leather, we should cover some of the other popular ones. This is kangaroo leather. It's very popular, and I don't know why. In my opinion, it's kind of terrible. It's very soft and supple because it's intended to be used for things that need a thin, soft and supple leather, like wallets and small items like that. You can see the grain structure is quite nice. It's nowhere near as good as premium shoulder leather off a cow. There's also loads of imperfections and growth creases and marks in it. And you're going to get that. Kangaroo is a small animal, so the leather is wrapped around like a tighter radius. It's never going to be as good. And even if it was, it's a soft, supple leather. I mean, you can't really see this, but I'm squeezing that, and it's soft. I don't know why this is popular. It's worse in every respect to bovine shoulder. I don't understand. Don't use that. Then we get to buffalo calf. Now, calf leather is good because it's young, so it hasn't had chance to scar itself much. So the leather is usually pretty much defect free, low growth marks, low amount of scars. Bovine calf is usually very soft. Buffalo calf is usually nice and hard. This, I think, is a really, really bad test. This doesn't mean anything, me squeezing it, but it's very stiff. This is a thin leather, and you can see it's holding its shape quite well when I hold it at one end versus the kangaroo leather, which I hold at one end. This is not stiff. This is stiff. So this is definitely a good option if you can find a good supplier. This one is obviously very dirty, and I just can't sell a strop looking like that. You can see the grain structure on it is very, very smooth. It's smoother and closer than the shoulder of the bovine. It's really nice to use, but it's just difficult to get nice cuts of it. So potentially you could risk getting some buffalo calf leather. It's usually very stiff and very good. but you're very much safer just going for bovine shoulder or bovine butt. I think that's a pretty good overview of the most common leathers used in stropping and which ones I think you should use. So I'll leave it there. Unless anyone's got any questions, then you can just drop them in the comments. So I will talk about the giveaway now. So I mentioned before I was going to give away this side bovine strop. It's 60mm by 250mm, 25mm deep on European steamed beech, and it's coated in a shellac. And also any grit stroppy stuff compound of your choice. So to enter, if you subscribe to my channel and you comment on this video, on the 1st of April, I will choose a winner from the comments. I'll find one of those websites that scans the comment list and it picks one at random. I'll use one of those. I will reply to your comment and tell you won, and you'll have 48 hours to email me. I will put my email address in the description of this video. If you don't reply in 48 hours, I'll select another winner. And I'll get this sent out to you along with your choice of compound.